Let's move on to known miscreant Matthew Lloyd. Name rings a bell somehow. Second question. PSO with a writer's theme. I love it. If somebody can remind me, we'll talk about writing next time or the time after that. Matt Lloyd. Tim Pool is someone who would classify himself as being on the left. That being said, he spends more time criticizing progressives than conservatives and seems to be intellectually honest across the board. What are the chances of you doing a web series with various people on the left who, like Tim, seem like reasonable old school liberals? Nothing fancy, just each of you with a webcam and mic talking about philosophy, etc. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a grand idea. I know that the closest I've come to that experience was doing Dave's show and Dave Rubin and it's really cool. It's connected to one down here by Steve Darrow. It says, I saw that Dave Rubin shook on a deal with Glenn Beck. How about we help you get back on the Rubin Report? That would be great. I'd like to shake a deal with Glenn Beck. But I don't know. You know, here I sit. I certainly think I am underexposed. And maybe this is maybe just the curse of the independent streak in me. This is maybe just the price I pay, just it's kind of marginal existence. Ultimately, I really just think that that's kind of essential for me, just to do what I'm doing. And to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I still have hopes of doing these science fiction shorts, but I've simply put those away for the time being. And we'll see. So anyway, that I miss. I miss working on those very much. So there's still, those wheels are still turning, but they're turning very slowly, and I would like them to turn faster because I think the Apollo 11 thing just gave people a glimpse of some of the things that I might be able to do with more of a toolbox. It was more than just a stand-up afterburner firewall kind of thing, and I think it showed, and I think it came out really well, but still didn't give me a chance to use the main tools, which are characters, villains, setbacks, character arcs, music, irony, illusion, and most importantly, something that beats all of them by far is the ability to show something rather than tell something. I would trade if I had a venue where I could show rather than tell. I would trade it. I'd trade what I'm doing right now for that in a heartbeat. And I know a lot of people think that maybe they don't like the sound of that, but I can assure you, number one, it would be better, be more effective, and secondly, you would soon realize the power of being able to show something rather than tell something. Just it is 2 orders of magnitude or 3 orders of magnitude more effective, and so I feel like a guy who's got lots and lots and lots of tools that I can't use, and it's frustrating. And time isn't running backwards either, so I know, and Natasha understands a great deal about this, but even, I think it's, at least in this one case, fair to say that because so much of this stuff is in my head, I don't think anybody knows. Again, this is like earlier when I said I think Bill Whittle now is the best conservative commentary out there. I don't usually make these kind of statements. 2 in 1 day is a little odd. But nobody knows what I'm capable of doing if I really had the chocks removed from the wheels. I mean, if I was really free and I don't need a lot of money, but just had enough money to do what I want to do, what I'm capable of doing, I think we would just amaze people. I think they'd be amazed. I think they'd be amazed at big bad problems. I think they'd be amazed at all of this stuff. It's very frustrating and occasionally disheartening to know that you're sitting on abilities that you don't get to use because the resources aren't there. And that's what it is about the Apollo thing that was like a bit of a step in that direction. People have had, and for all the people who kind comments about that again tonight too, thank you very much. It's clearly the best work I've ever done in this arena. But one thing that the Apollo 11 thing showed me was that this is a level you can achieve with some resources that are beyond what you have now. Just the set alone was, I don't know, 7-8 months of membership just to build the set. I mean, 7-8 months of the total membership income here just to build the set. That's all. But because that set was so good, and because the editors, they had four or five people working on that full time, they were able to go out and get clips like today the Sputnik, and it just took it to another level. And the thing about the Apollo series was it showed me that I wasn't lying to myself when I've been telling myself you're capable of much more than this. That series allowed me a few more tools than I have now. But again, most of them I still didn't get a chance to use. And I am, at this point now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise enough money just to do one. We were originally trying to raise enough money to put together a studio and stuff. I just want to do one now. I just want to do one. And I suspect we'll do it. It's going to take a while. But if I can do one, then people will see it. And when they see it, they'll get it. It's almost impossible to convey to people what stories I have in my head and the power that those things have in terms of the politics. I mean, we're here for the politics. We're here we'd like to see this country preserved. And I feel like I feel like a guy who's got a gun closet or a gun safe or a gun room, and I've got 50 calibers up there, and I've got sniper rifles, and I've got every single handgun ever made, all of that stuff, and then I have to go outside and confront a threat with a crossbow, and I'm okay with a crossbow, but it's frustrating, and so this is where you separate the men from the boys. The boys have a good idea, and when it doesn't work out, they give up on it. The men aren't nearly that smart. They just hang on and keep going until they get there. And that's what we're going to do. Too stupid to give this up, and I'm going to just keep doing it. Because not only is it a better way to reach people, but equally as importantly, it's a way to reach people that we're not reaching now. And all of the conservative movement, and I mean really all of it, with one or two exceptions that are, and even those exceptions are just nibbling on the edges, is preaching to the choir, and the choir's getting smaller, not bigger, and we got to do something about it. So I keep coming back to this, but fundraising is not my strong suit, and if anybody has had some experience with that, we'd love to hear from you. You could certainly use the help. info@billwhittle.com would be great. The 501c3 tax-deductible aspect helps too, I think. But in any event, right now I've just got my hands full. We're doing 11 shows a week with just Shelley and Scott, Matt and Wyatt doing the editing. And that's a lot of shows. And in addition to that, I'm writing this Newsmax thing and also writing the Cold War and stuff. So I'm a busy bee. But I also realize that the problem is not time. It's not like I don't have enough time to do that and this other stuff as well. I don't have the structure. That's the problem. I don't have the structure. I am a very disorganized guy. I suppose it comes with the job. I mean, essentially what I do is just look at everything and just, I described this a couple times before, but it's been a while. Best way I ever was able to describe what I do to myself is I kind of stand there like I'm on the porch in Wizard of Oz and I'm in the middle of this tornado of information. And I'm taking in as much as I possibly can. And all of these things are swirling around so fast that you can't really understand any of it really, except every now and then you go, oh, look, there's a woman on a bicycle. And there goes a cow. And maybe someday there'll be a time to connect the cow with the woman on the bicycle. So I basically go and live in this information stream. And I soak up as much as I can. And I try to combine that with some of the life lessons that I've learned the hard way. And try to find a way to synthesize the information through a human lens that makes the information more story-like, more accessible. And I think that's what the best work that I do is like that. I think the Apollo thing's a great example. Perfect. In fact, it is the definitive example. The Apollo thing, to me, worked as well as it did. It was the number 3 podcast in the world. Every one of those 4 episodes made the top 5 or top 3 in the world. And the reason that show did as well as it did was because I think personally it had almost perfect blend of fact and personal story and just anecdotal kind of conversational quality. If it was just a conversation, it wouldn't have been successful. If it was just a history of me and the space age, it wouldn't have been successful. If it were just a list of the facts and the missions, it wouldn't have been successful. But together, that information put into a human context with emotion is I think it worked. Eric Blake mentioned a little while ago when we were talking about the Apollo thing in the comment section. He said, still not over it. To me, that's a great example. So for those of you who didn't see it, I was talking about how on the launch of Apollo 17, it was the only night launch of the Apollo mission. I was living in Bermuda. First staging separation occurred right over Bermuda. Didn't have a radio, didn't have the internet, and I went out there, waited for 2 or 3 hours, went back to bed, went to sleep, found out from my mom, who appeared an hour later, that I'd gone to sleep 15 minutes before the thing happened. The launch had been delayed, and no matter how much it bothered me and how angry I got, I couldn't do anything about it. And then I just kind of held the pause for a little while and said, still not over it. And since we're talking about writing and all this other stuff and internet content, the reason that line was important was because that line, the delivery of that line, and it wasn't acting, it's just reliving it, that kind of sense of gut-wrenching disappointment and dismay and regret, what does that actually accomplish? Well, what it accomplished showing how magnificent a night launch of an Apollo mission was. It connected people emotionally to the monumental spectacle of a Saturn V rocket going off the pad at nighttime. That's what humanized it, and missing it, hurting that much, puts emotional power into the whole thing that you wouldn't have thought much about otherwise. Oh, there's a picture of a Saturn V going off at night. Okay, cool. It's not just okay, cool. It's a world-changing, life-changing experience. It's transcendental, and if you miss it, it hurts. So that's kind of thing we're talking about, where story and all these other things work together. Just the music that they used in the Apollo thing helped enormously. It's subtle. It's not really leading anything, but it's helping. You look at the part. I did the computer animation myself for In fact, I held up the episode I delivered this animation probably an hour before they did the final output of part 3, but I did the computer animation of the lunar module Snoopy up there, lost in the stars, and there was nothing we could use to get across how I wanted to make that feel. It just wasn't there. I could have taken a picture of the lunar module top stage, and I could have darkened it and done it in After Effects and had it kind of rotate against the background, but even then it doesn't look the same. I needed video of that little tiny thing out there in the middle of nowhere with just the reflection of the Earth on the glass. And I wrote the Apollo 10 Snoopy stuff to end the third part, and then I did the animation for it myself in 3D Studio. And I told them I'm doing the animation on this, and they said, yeah, okay. And when I finally delivered it, they said, "Hey, that's really, really good." It's like, another thing I can do that I don't get a chance to do. But if I hadn't, this is a good way to end this episode, I think, tonight. I went out and made pretty much by hand. I went out and made the video that accompanied what I had written. And that video for what I had written doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because we don't have footage of Snoopy out there. This tiny little piece of aluminum that's just been in orbit around the sun for nearly 50 years. And I wrote that ending because I wanted people to know what it would feel like if you went there. Let me rephrase that. How I would feel if I got a chance to go. If I got a chance to go in a spacesuit and see the top stage of Apollo 10 out there in the middle of the dark. That's how I wrote it. It's like a piece of history frozen in time. It's in deep freeze. It's all of America inside a little tiny piece of aluminum with these strange kind of a face on it with the triangular windows, and it encapsulates everything about the country and about the program. It's almost too beautiful to be believed that out there, because that's where it belongs. That right now out there, the entire spirit of the Apollo program of the United States, the height of its powers, all of it, is in a little flimsy little piece of aluminum the size of two airline restrooms glued together, and that it's still there. It's almost like a spirit or a like an ancient scroll that you think is destroyed when the city catches fire, but somehow manages to survive. And so that's a really good example of the kind of thing I've been talking about for the last half hour. That was one of the very, 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 very few, in fact, it may be the only example ever of the political stuff that I've done where I got a chance to show you as well as tell you. John Pershing just wrote, "Damn it, don't make me cry about Snoopy again." You should be crying about Snoopy. I wrote it so that you would cry. And if I didn't have that video that I'd produced, it wouldn't have had the same power. It would have been good, but it wouldn't have had the same power as seeing that thing out there just on duty. It's on duty. It's on duty. It's been there and it's going to be there. And there was no way for me to do that video other than to do the video. But that's a great example of what I've been talking about. I was able to create just because I have enough knowledge of 3D Studio, and it wasn't a 20-man adventure over 4 years. I just threw it together in 3-4 hours. But it shows you that extra power that is available to me, but that I don't get to use. ever. It's so much better seeing that thing just tumbling across. And the hardest part was just, it's so subtle, so subtle. I did buy a pre-made model, yes. And it really was tough to get this because I didn't have time to really get it set up the way I wanted to. I had to use basically a blue light and a white light, and the white light was the sun, the blue light was the earth. And to get the thing to rotate so that somewhere in that animation, the blue disk of the earth goes across the window. And it's very fast, it just moves, but it shows you, it's out there, but it's not out there. It's around the earth. I really like that, and I want to do more of it. So hopefully we will find a way to do it. I bought a lunar module model from Turbo Squid. It was great, brilliantly done. Thank you, and thank you for all the kind comments about it. But that's what I can do when I have the tools, and I miss them. But we're not dead yet. Okay, so I think that'll do it for this edition of the Stratosphere Lounge, made possible by the paying members at BillWhittle.com. Bless you, every one of you, for keeping the lights on here and allowing us to continue to do the work that we're doing. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a fun episode, different. We'll talk about writing next time. We'll do a movie night coming up too. And I'm looking forward to all of that. So until then, all of you guys, you be careful out there. Have a good time. And we will see you here next time on the Stratosphere Lounge.